Hello, everyone. Welcome to the January FMS webinar. Um, some just some housekeeping notes. Please uh, leave all questions to the end of the presentation. Please write your questions in the chat. And now I would like to introduce Anton.
All right. Thank you for that. So a reminder again, please put your questions in the chat. We'll do them all at the end of the presentations because there's a lot of people on just to keep things organized. The reason we chose this particular topic of maintenance for this FMS series, it is because as FMS people and also our technicians, it is a very often a point of attention when we go on farm. And the reality is, farmers ask us for feedback and input, and they get technicians out to get the robots fixed because at times they may not be happy with the way the robots are performing. And quite often, regularly, these are maintenance related. And many of these maintenance items are something that we can be doing on farm ourselves. So when the robots aren't running right, the farmer isn't happy because he's not getting the performance. The cows aren't happy because they're not getting proper milkings. And obviously, the technicians also have to deal with that. So at the end of the day, nobody's happy. The other item is, when we do get technicians in on farm and they're trying to diagnose a problem, when there is outstanding maintenance items that we as farmers should have done ourselves, then they can sometimes cloud what the real problem is. So if we have loose teat cups or stuff not adjusted or calibrated, and we ask them to find a problem, these are the first things they're going to have to do before they can ever start diagnosing the real problem. So on that, we have two speakers today, but we'll first start with the maintenance section, and that will be done by Jan-Willem Jongsma. And then we have a second presentation by Melissa, and that is some updates on what's new in Horizon. So first, I'd like to introduce Jan-Willem Jongsma of Penner Farm Services, Manitoba. Jan-Willem went to dairy school in the Netherlands and then moved to Canada when he was 20. He ran a robot farm in Manitoba for 2 years before starting for Penner Farm Service in 2014. As a part-time technician, part-time turned into full-time before he migrated to the FMS team. Jan-Willem is happily married with 5 children and also has a small flock of 100 sheep. Take it away, Jan-Willem.
Good. Thank you very much for that lovely introduction. So we got a lot of slides to cover, so we better get started. So I'm hoping to look at 3 different topics: connection attempts, the hygiene, and the milk time, or increase in milk time and a reduction in the milk speed. So first off, connection attempts. What we consider as a connection attempt? Connection attempt we measure as the amount of time it takes the robot to successfully connect to the teeth. So we have a couple different goals with that. On the A5, your connection attempts, we aim for about 1.1. The connection time on there is right around that 35 seconds. On the A4, connection attempts, we often see them, or we see them at 1.3. Connection time is right around that 40 seconds. If you're unhappy with your A4 performance and you would like the A5 side of things, I would suggest you contact your sales guys. I'm sure they're happy to help you achieve those goals. So on the FMS side of things, we got a new software available to us, and that is the Connection Performance Device Index indication. It's a whole mouthful. So basically what it does is it looks at some key components: the first time rate, it looks at connection attempts, it looks at connection failures, and it looks at the connection time. Based on that, it scores each individual robot. So the score goes from 0 to 100. Given that these are the A5 robots and it's only scoring a 7, there is a lot of room for improvement right here. This is not something you can find in your own Horizon. So if you want to know what your robot score is, feel free to reach out to your local FMS person and we'll happily share and discuss that with you. So how do we improve some of these connection attempts? First off, an important one is the cup offsets. The benefits of that are we can see a reduction in connection time, reduction in failures, ending up with more free time, and overall a more efficient robot. So we'll look at this video here. So you might be wondering, why do we have to do this offsets? Hopefully we can show that in this video so you can see the offsets on the rear quarters. They were good. The offset on the left front is not where it should be. You can see it misattaches. Going to try the right front, one attachment, it attaches. And the left front here, as you can see, it's struggling, it's misattaching because the offset is not where it should be. So it's really nice and clear the importance of the cup offsets. So how do we do the cup offsets? We hope to show you the cup offset calibration procedure. You can already see on the left front, we offset it a little bit. You can see it's tilted forward a little bit. So we're going to the calibration menu, which you can find under tasks and then calibrations. We're starting the scanning process. You can see it's active currently. And you can see the circles in the correct positions are turning green. So the left rear is done, right front is done. Still active. And now you can see that the left front is not properly in the circle and it's not turned green. If you now look at the calibration details, you can see that the Y calibration on the left front is 19. Now the goal is the closer to the 0 we can get, the better it is. So we're going to adjust this offset a little bit. It's a real fun job. You have to go with a flat screwdriver. You'll find the adjustment screw underneath cup. I will do that now. It's right underneath the cup there. Spin it in and see, as I am shortening the screw, you can see that the angle changes. I usually look along the sticks to make sure that they're perfectly straight. Yep. And then we rescan. And as you can tell now, the scanning is going way quicker than the previous one. See, it's done already. And you can see now the calibration is 0. As good as it's going to get. And now you hit save scan positions and you're done. Good, that was that. So that lovely screw I was talking about in the video, that is right here. You often have to rinse with a hose here all the crap away that's sitting here. But if you're adjusting this screw, you can either tilt your cup forward or backwards. Next slide, we're going to talk about the ropes. However, I just wanted to point out the rope that we got here. You can see this rope is starting to get waterlogged already. It's flattening here a little bit. It's swelling up. A rope like this, I would say, should get replaced. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the rope length. So we often see in the field that after the ropes have been replaced or shortened a little bit, that the rope length is off too long, and we're ending up with a wobbly cup. That is hard for the robot to connect to the teats. It also affects the wash performance because now it's not properly lined up underneath the jetters. Too short, if the ropes are too short, the issue what we see there is on a cow with small udder, it will attach and there won't be any issues. However, if you have a cow with a large udder, when that arm is moving forward, what happens is the rears will get pulled off again. That leads to an increase in the connection attempts. So proper rope length is important. We'll show you that in this video. Another important thing to look at if we're looking to improve our connection attempts is the rope length. We often find that they're tied just a little bit too short. This will work fine on a cow that has a small udder. However, once we're coming into a larger udder, when the arm is moving forward to the front teats, the rear ones will get pulled off due to the rope being too short. See what a proper length is. We're aiming to be with the bottom of the cup right at the top of the other one. So this one is too short. This one is right at the correct length. Another little trick, see, this is too short. Another little trick is, If your knot is right at the top of the cover, that is also the right length. And then a little bit on the rope conditions again. So when the cup is being released, we would like to see 0.0 binding. So even in the test menu, if you loosen all your cups and you're pulling up a cup and you feel a little bit restriction or binding on there, that is something we do not want. Sometimes you can see the tilt cup, like this one right here. As the rope is being released, you can see it flip up sometimes. If you see that kind of behavior happening, you for sure know that that rope is due to be replaced. Next up, the 3D camera. This is something that we don't often calibrate. If you have a pen with multiple robots in there, that's definitely becoming more of an issue because due to the vibration of the box, sometimes these bolts right here, they can rattle loose a little bit, resulting in a different angle. If we're having different angles between the robots in the same pen, what happens is the coordinates of the other are stored different per robot, and then that will affect the brush performance on the next one. So it's good to check this as well. What you can do to check this is on your phone. If you have a smartphone, you can get a level app on there. And then what I usually do with my phone, you just place your phone right here on this angle, and you want to make sure it's 6 degrees. So keep in mind to 6 degrees right on this angle. Once you achieve that, you can carefully tighten these bolts right there. It's a 10 mil bolt, what sits here. And then also make sure that this angle is level as well. So how does that look? A calibration of that. You can go to your calibration menu under 3D camera, and you can select show 3D camera image. What you get to see is this right here. So if you look at that image on your own device, you can see this at the edge here. That is supposed to be the gate. The gate is closed when you're doing this calibration, and it uses that as a reference point for the cow position as well. So you can see here the pit underneath there, it has a slight different color. So how to calibrate? You just hit take background image. The word succeed will change into busy. So it does its magic, and then eventually the words here will change all into pass. And once you see the word succeeded again, then you're good to go. And that's all there is to the 3D camera calibration. It's pretty simple to do. In regard to connection attempts, we're going to talk a little bit about the hairy udders. If the udder is nice and cleaned, it's very easy for the laser to see the teeth. It does one scan, one attachment, everyone's happy. On an udder with hair like this, it sometimes gets a bit of a distorted vision, so it may have to do a couple of rescans in order to determine where the exact teeth is. Especially if you get some manure that binds together a little bit, you can get some fake attachments from that as well. So please clean the udders. Next is the calibration of the robot arms. If you got an A4, unfortunately, you have to calibrate a little bit more than when an A5. When instead of having an A5, the A5 auto calibrates. The A4 does not do it, especially after a training session with a heifer that didn't quite agree with the training. It's a good idea to calibrate your arm. Improper calibrated arm can also lead to wash performance, as it's now not sitting under the jetters nicely. So the calibration that should on an A4 should be a daily thing. So here's that how you do it. Another maintenance item that often is forgotten is the arm calibration. On an A4, this is a little more important than on an A5, as the A5 does auto calibrations and the A4 will not do that. The importance of calibration is, in the first place, the connection attempts will be affected by it. Secondly, it will also affect the wash performance. If the arm is out of calibration, it will not align properly under the jetters. If you're looking at this video and you're wondering, hey, my arm is calibrating way too slow, I should call the service department, please don't. We did speed it up. I figured I better mention that. I could just see the calls come in. Next is loose laser cover. So what we need is, this will affect the cup offsets. We need a fixed distance between the laser and the cups. That's to achieve an accurate attachment. If the laser moves, we don't longer know where those cups are. So you can see two bolts on the side here. They can sometimes rattle loose. So this one and that one right there. And then in the next video, we'll show how it affects it as well. check if you're struggling with connection attempts would be if your laser cover is tight. As you can see here, the laser cover has play in it. If you take the cover off, you can see that the bolt there is loose. Just simply tighten it, and then also check on the bottom on the other side of this cover. And after you're done with that, just check again, and as you can see now, the cover is tight on. Next off, a little general cleaning of the robot tips and tricks. So what we see over and over again, it's easier to identify problems for the technician, for yourself, if you're working with a clean robot. It's just, you can see things better. That being said, it's also a lot more fun, even for your technician, but for yourself, to work with a clean robot instead of it's covered with manure everywhere. We'll show a few cleaning videos. Other daily maintenance tasks is the cleaning of the cup and the tilt pieces here. You can see that I got them in the upward position, so I can easily clean all the straw and debris, whatever is underneath there. That affects the offset. Also, I'm pulling the hoses out. Whatever is underneath the laser is getting removed out this way. Usually give the bottom a quick spray. It often gets forgotten. And then while I'm doing this maintenance task, I also just have a brush handy. Give the cover a quick cleaning. So that everything is looking nice and shiny again. Always fun to play with some water. There we go. And as I mentioned in the video here, there is always some debris, straw, whatever collects. It likes to collect right underneath here. If that is not washed out proper, see, here's our set screw for the tilt we talked about earlier. If there's any manure or anything in there, it will offset the tilt, leading to a higher connection attempts. So right there, if you do wash it out, make sure that your cups are tilted up so you can wash it out very nice. Another important daily maintenance task is cleaning the laser. I'm using here the TDS cleaner, which stands for Teeth Detection Sensor. As you can see, I'm using a cloth and I'm making sure I really wipe that glass clean. Also, please focus on the edges. It's often an area that's getting forgotten, and it's definitely affecting the vision, especially on wider cows. Next up, our 3D camera. So when you're cleaning the 3D camera, please make sure you're using a clean cloth. I often see it that a cloth is hanging in the robot room. It's been there for quite a while already. It actually became greasy. It has not been washed. So the effectiveness of that cloth to clean the glass is not so there anymore. What happens is the fatty film that you have now on the cloth is now going on the glass, makes it challenging to clean. And the other thing is we do not want any scratches coming onto this glass neither. So make sure it's a soft, clean cloth. Another thing that can get easily forgotten is our 3D camera. Right here, I'm using the lens cleaner spray with a soft cloth, and I make sure that there is no debris, manure, or fly poop, anything like that on the glass. And while you're out in the box cleaning your 3D camera, it's a good idea to every now and then also take your ID reader along in the process of cleaning. Just give it a little wipe, clean the bottom of it, and then the photocell up front. This photocell is responsible for closing the gate after a cow has left the stall. Then we're moving on to our hygiene topic. Just a couple tips and tricks of the hygiene items right around the robot. This sentence here, I can't stress enough. We often see that the flaps are not being used on here. Please put those flaps on. What happens is if you have any foreign materials on the cow's belly, when the arm goes underneath there, whatever is hanging on there can nicely fall straight into the cups, get in touch with the milk, you get it in your system, and that can quickly lead to an increase of your IBC numbers. So please keep that flap on there. you do have the flap on. There's a couple corners that often get forgotten to be cleaned. Here, if you look at this, you can see it right here. And especially if you bend up your flap, you can see this lovely film full of bacteria and stuff nicely rubbing over the cups. Because what happens is when the arm comes in, the flap rubs on the liner touches the other again, the other touches the teat, and now we can very easy spread stuff from cow to cow. Also, we can see over time they start bending or they start getting tired. Please replace it. The cost of a flap is, compared to a mastitis case, very minimum. Next off on the brushes itself, what can happen is you can have a biofilm form happen right at the rod on the bottom. So here on the top, we're nicely disinfecting the brush, and then we come at the bottom and we're infecting it right here. So when you're cleaning it, just make sure you spray here with your water hose. Now this picture is pretty extreme, but yeah, it is pretty visible. You can also have it on your rods that it's not as visible as this. However, there is still a film on. So if you use a cloth, just see if you can wipe it clean. This is also an important maintenance item right here. Next is the loose brush motor. So what happens is the arm gets a lot of, or the brush motor gets a lot of moving and sometimes a little bit of use to it. So what can happen is the bolts right at the bottom here, they can come loose. So it's also good to make sure that the brush motor is on straight and that it's still tightened properly. We'll show in the next video. Our item to check is if you have any play on your brush arm bearing. You can see here, I can move it up and down. So we want that brush arm to sit on top of the mothership instead of leaning against it. So you just seen me push it up there. We'll watch it go back again. See it sitting against it instead of on top of the mothership. See, I'm trying to lift it up now, which was unsuccessful, I know. But what this does is that now the brush motor sits on an angle and it's actually brushing the sides of the teeth instead of the actual teeth. See here, it flipped back on there and now it's sitting straight. There we go. And while we're on the brush motor topic, hair in the brushes. As we all know, everyone here always clips their tails at all times. However, the odd time maybe a cow sneaks in, if the brush motor gets a hold of that tail, what often happens is it pulls out some hair and it likes to wrap around right there. That should get removed the second you see it, because what happens is now the brush motor has a lot more resistance to spin it. So your life expectancy of your brush motor just went down quite a bit if you leave that undressed. Show this video how we do it. Another maintenance item to check is if you have hair wrapped around your brush motor rods. So here, in order to access it, I just simply remove the brushes and you can see it's wrapped right around there. The reason we want this removed is because it's causing a lot of extra resistance on the motor itself to spin the brushes. It has the tendency to really nicely wrap and bind right around there. If you leave this unaddressed, it will definitely reduce the life expectancy of the brush motor. It's just taking too much resistance to run. After that's done, I just rinsed it off and put her back together, and you're good to go. And while we're on the brush story, damaged brushes. So we get from Horizon, we get a notification at 30,000 milkings that the brushes are due to be replaced. However, with our USA pretreatment, we are actually double brushing. So now we are already at 60,000 brushes. So another downside from worn brushes is the hairs are not rubbing against this rod right here. So what then happens is it's not flicking the water off. So the brushes are not dry. So now we're going with a wet brush underneath the cow. So now we're having a wet teat. If we're trying to attach to a wet teat, we're actually having a more chance of slippage. So because it's wet, it easier slips off. So that's another good reason to replace your brushes. And also the older brushes, they do not stimulate near as good as the new ones do. So please keep them replaced, keep them fresh. You don't have to wait for the notification to show up. If you see any wear on them, just replace them. And here we're back to the famous hairy udder picture again. This is more from a hygiene point of view. Instead of the connection attempts, there is a lot of debris that can hook onto here. If we're striving for top quality milk, which is what we all do, it is good to keep this clean as well. Next is the iodine. Another important thing to check daily is if your teat dip is applied properly. So what we want is a nice cone spray that covers the teat. As you can see here, we're getting that cone spray. We have a drop of iodine at the bottom of every teat end. Okay, what I mean with that cone is we have the teat is covered around. So you see it not just on one specific spot, but it is nicely around. So if you're unhappy with the spray performance on your robot, maybe talk to your technician on your next service. If you do decide to take it apart, there is a very small piece. It kind of looks like a filing when you're drilling in steel. That is right in the spray nozzle. That is what's causing the cone. Now, sometimes there is a piece of straw or a piece of dried iodine can be in there, and you end up with a pencil streak. But if you do take it open, do not lose that piece. It's very easy to lose. And after that, your application will be just a straight up streak, and it will not have the cone anymore. So just a heads up there. Next, we're having the jetter cups. Getting the cleaning not okay for a specific quarter alarm. That can be that the jetter calibration is off. As you can see here, the rear cup is loose compared to the front. So it can suck in air during a main wash. So here we're doing the calibration procedure. It's under the calibrations. You can calibrate the jetter position and look after calibration. Now it's tight again under the jetters. Good, I hope we're all awake still. Bear with me, guys. There's just a couple more slides. We're gonna look for issues when we have an increase in milk time and a reduction in milk speed. First off, we often see in the field an issue with the O-rings. Thing to check when you're replacing liners or dealing with an increased milk time is the small O-ring on the bottom of your shell. So you're looking here, in this case, the O-ring magically happens to be missing. Sure, it's on nice and straight. Also, something to watch for is the inside of the cup, where we're going to thread it in shortly. You want that to be clean and dry. So make sure there is no moisture or anything hiding in that cup. And then when you spin it in like this, make sure that when it's almost tight, you spin it backwards a little bit so that the O-ring has a proper placing and it's not being pinched. And when we are replacing the liners, just make sure that your liners don't get twisted in the cup. So depending how you grab it from the top, it can get twisted. So you want to be able to look through it. So here, this one is obviously open. See, there is no bends or stress points anywhere in that liner. It's all clear. This one obviously is twisted. So if you looked at that video, I'll replay it. But if you looked at that video, when I started spinning the liner on, I just had it at the end first to get it started. But once there is a little bit more resistance, what I do is, let's see if we can get it to play. Thing to check when you're replacing liners or dealing with an increased milk time is the small O-ring on the bottom of your shell. So you're looking here, in this case, the O-ring magically happens to be missing. Sure, it's on nice and straight. Also, something to watch for is the inside of the cup, where we're going to thread it in shortly. You want that to be clean and dry. So make sure there is no moisture or anything hiding in that cup. When I thread them in, I don't want it to cross thread. So I start at the end, as you can see right here. But now watch, see now I'm moving my hand to the shell instead of holding the liner. If you are doing it at the end, it's very easy to twist. So the top can twist, but also the bottom right here can twist on the housing piece. So after you've done that, it's always a good idea to check if there are no stress marks or twists in there. Next is the bleed holes. When you get a bleed hole plug notification, please use the pin and clean the hole right on the side there. It could be a piece of straw or something in there. Now, it looks like a very simple little task. However, it is a pretty important task. If you get the alarm of bleed hole plugged, please address it right away, because what happens is the takeoff sensor is looking for gushes of milk. So it needs a little bit of air so that it sees the streams of milk. If it's just a steady stream, it is struggling with the takeoff. So the bleed hole plug does affect your takeoff performance. So when you do get that alarm, please deal with that right away. And next we are at the box time and the expelling device. Now, keep an eye on that word. We're on purpose not using the word shocker. No one likes the word shocker, so we're calling it the expelling device. If you look at these robots, they're in the same pen. This one has a treatment time of just over 2 minutes. This robot is over double because the cow is just taking her good old time getting out of the box. So the expelling device definitely can make a difference. We'll show you how to test that. Couple different ways of testing your expelling device. First, you can select someone at the farm and get them to hold it and see what the reaction is after you turn it on. Next is you can grab the weight on the expelling device, hang it over your gate, turn it on in the test menu, and see if you can see tiny little sparks between the weight and the gate right there, where you have it hanging over. If you see those, you know it's working. So if you're doing this, do not use a voltmeter. Let's say if this trick you don't see it spark and you're not totally sure about it, do not put a regular voltmeter on there. It will blow up. It can't handle the amount of volts that are coming from this little expelling device. You need a fencing tester in order to get a proper reading out of it. So that's just a little trick right there. In conclusion, the basic maintenance and cleaning is important. We see in the field all the time that the cleaned and well-maintained robots are performing better, and we have happier cows and happier farmers on those. And that was it for my presentation.
Thank you, Jan Willem, for presenting this presentation. When we started, I should have also probably introduced Kirsten. She was very instrumental in also making this presentation with the whole video side. And Kirsten also works for Penner, Manitoba. She grew up on a beef and pig farm. She earned an animal science degree from the University of Manitoba and spent 6 years gaining hands-on dairy experience before joining the Penner Farm Services team in 2023. Today, she supports producers as a dedicated member of the FMS team. So maybe, Kirsten, your camera's on, give them a wave so people know who you are. She also, she was very instrumental in making these videos and making that work. Okay, our second presentation for today is on what's new on the horizon. And that presentation will be done by Melissa from Dundas. Melissa Duan grew up in Eastern Ontario and brings over 20 years of farm experience across Ontario, Quebec, and Alberta. With a diploma in agriculture business management from Olds College, she has built a diverse career spanning dairy, equine science, feed production, veterinary work, and ruminal health research using fish-related dairy cows. She now applies her extensive expertise as FMS support for Dundas Agri Systems. For those that don't know, that's in the Ottawa area. So, Melissa, whenever you're ready, share your screen and take it away.
Thank you, Anton, for the lovely introduction. Just get my presentation up here. There we go. Okay. So this afternoon, I'll be speaking a little bit about what's new in Horizon. So as you all know, Horizon updates come frequent to your computer via software updates. Some of these updates may go unnoticed by you, and while some are simple bug fixes, sometimes there are bigger changes or new features and advices added. Your FMS team also receives updates and new tools designed to offer further support. So let's start with the basics. To keep your farm running smoothly, some basic software housekeeping includes keeping your farm PC on the latest software and plan for timely replacement of aged PCs. Restart your computer regularly. Horizon will or should update automatically. If you're encountering Horizon concerns, you can check the new feature Horizon status bar on farm. This can help you determine if the issue is widespread or local to your farm, and contact your FMS advisor or dealership for support if you encounter concerns. And remember to speak with your Lely service team members about keeping your robots on the latest software. This goes for astronauts, vectors, and small barn products. So in the following video, I'll demonstrate how to check your Horizon status bar and where to locate your Horizon version. On the top left-hand side where your login is, you'll see that it says Horizon status. If you click on that, it'll open a web page and bring you to this page. What you are looking for is all green check marks. Should some of these not be green check marks, reach out to your FMS advisor. You can also read the latest release notes in Horizon by clicking the What's New near the bottom left-hand menu. And you can check your Horizon version by going to your Manage License Settings. So for those of you not keeping up with the Horizon release notes, you may have missed that our big win for Canadian farmers is that we're now able to add milk components in kgs of fat and protein to reports using the cow actual template. You can use these two key data points to support on-farm reproduction, milking, and culling decisions. For data integrity and accuracy, please remember to enter or calibrate your milk fat and protein routinely in Horizon by entering your bulk tank results under the Manage Milk Bulk Tank menu. With the latest Horizon software, there was also an improvement to the key performance indicator calculation or KPI calculation for fat and protein, along with rumination calculations. This update means they will now stay accurate even in times without internet on farm. So in this video, I will demonstrate how to add components to a report. Most of you are probably aware of how to create a custom report. So as an example, I chose report 41 here. I've duplicated the report to include milk solids. So we're giving it a new name here. And now using the search feature, which is newer in the all fields of creating custom reports, if you type in daily, it will give you the three options. So daily fat, daily protein, and daily sums. You can add an average and sum to the header of each column. Apply changes will create this custom report. You can then filter the report on the KPIs that you value most. In this case, I've chosen to sort the report on total milk solids. When you hover over the header of each column, you will see how the report has arrived at the calculation. This report is based on the previous 24 hours. There's also been several new features and updates I'd like to highlight. For those of you operating with Sense Hub antennas on your farm, you may have noticed changes to the labels on your behavior graphs. This is also reflected on reproduction reports 19 and 34. For those of you operating on the older BU500 antennas, there were no changes. If you're unsure which antenna you have on farm, an easy tell is to check a cow behavior graph. Sense Hub graphs do not have the horizontal green bar across the graph as illustrated in the images on the slide. Lely also introduced the redesigned reproduction check later in 2025. The goal was to make repro checks easier and faster to enter on both your PC and mobile app. The new Horizon task combines both pregnancy and reproduction tasks. There are now 2 dedicated lists combined into one task, with the ability to add treatment plans and record reproduction abnormalities directly into the task. You also have the ability to apply batch or individual entries. This helps keep all reproductive data in one place. Part of this update was the twins feature. You can now easily record twin pregnancies and calvings in the reproduction and calving tasks. When twins are marked during a pregnancy check, this information is now automatically shown in the pregnancy remark column of the calving task. This helps you and your vet stay aware of expected twin calvings and prepare accordingly. I'd like to highlight 2 newer reports, the first being Laylee's transition report. This report provides an overview of relevant parameters for dry cows and cows in their first days of lactation and helps you monitor changes over time. For fresh cows, the report shows milk production over the past 24 hours, sick chance, and the 3-day difference in rumination activity. Deviations in one or more of these parameters might be an indication of a transition challenge that needs your attention. You may also personalize this report on farm by duplicating it. Secondly, for those of you operating with SenseHub antennas, heavy breathing days is now reportable on the group and herd level. On the group daily heat stress graph, heavy breathing is interpreted as heat stress. Timeline of this graph is adjustable using the report settings, making it useful for periodical review of ventilation or heat abatement strategies on farm. There has also been updates to your device indications report. The device indications report can seem overwhelming, but pay close attention to non-critical alarms 250 and 559. With the latest software updates to your robot, alarm 559 will be triggered if a cleaning problem indicated by device indication attention 250 with the teacups persists through 3 consecutive cleanings for the same teacup. 559 is a call-out alarm. Both attentions will indicate which teacups are affected. If you're receiving these attentions on farm, recommendations are to inspect the teacups and liners, calibrate your jetter position, and calibrate your robot arm. Check that jetter hoses are connected properly. Address any water flow alarms, if any, and call for technical support if the attention persists. There was also updates to the ID-related attentions on your device indications report. These are meant to improve troubleshooting robot ID failures. Cow number and responder number are now included in the description of the attention. We recommend getting into the habit of checking your device indications report regularly and periodically checking your responder report for responders with attentions. Some general improvements seen within Horizon. We can now easily find a particular cow using the new filter feature when wanting to adjust an individual cow's milk settings. The filter is located on the top right-hand side of the Manage page. It is a small funnel-shaped icon. When creating custom reports, save time by using the search filter feature as demonstrated in my earlier video. Other updates include clear insemination warnings to protect data accuracy. Horizon now shows warning messages when necessary. Clear milk separation recordings. Milk separations linked to a health treatment that is changed or ended manually. The updated end date now appears clearly in both the health treatment and the event page on the desktop and mobile. Changes are visually highlighted. The original date is crossed out and the updated date is shown below. If the new date is in the future, it will appear in orange. If the separation date has already ended, it will appear in black. This improvement helps farmers avoid confusion and ensure they always know that the correct milk separation period, reducing the risks of mistakes such as sending milk with sending withheld milk to the tank, and makes tracking changes easier. There was also an update to the blood milk detection algorithm with the latest robot software update. The algorithm can now detect blood in milk that is not detected visually by the human eye. And just a reminder that while we recognize some farms have their own practices, our recommendation is to set robot E-Link settings for blood and abnormal to sewer destination. Some of you may not be aware, but your FMS advisor has additional tools and data insights to support you, including, but not limiting to, the following tools. LSSA, which looks at visit behavior and robot behavior. LTDA is a vector performance monitoring tool currently. CPDI monitors detailed connection performance and robot performance, as illustrated by Jan Willem in his earlier presentation. And Field Assist offers detailed pre-treatment, milk flow, and takeoff analysis. FMS advisors are proud to offer data-driven insights on your farm and guidance to all of our Lely farmers. If you would like more information, reach out to your dealership FMS advisor to schedule a visit. We will be sharing the list of FMS advisors that Anton showed at the beginning of this webinar. And that's all I have for today. Thank you for your time. And if you have further questions, we'll be able to address them in the chat.
Thank you, Melissa, for making and doing that presentation. We'll go to the question and answer section now. There seemed to be fairly quiet on the question front, but so if you're on the call, you do have a question related to the presentations or more FMS related in general, throw them in the chat and we'll try to answer them now or answer them later if we can't answer them now. So the question from the chat that we do have, and I guess Jan Willem will hopefully answer this one, is there any tricks for chain length or adjustments on the robots that come with chains?
It basically comes down to the length on a chain versus a rope is the same. So that knot right at the top of that cover, what I showed in the video, right, like that stands open, that is the same for chain as for rope. The nice part about the chains is you don't have to shorten them as often as you do the rope. We like them for that. But any special tip or trick? No, it's the same as the other one. Length is the same cylinders are operating them. So that's all the same.
Okay, and I guess the one thing I would add to that with the chains, if you do notice that your chains are stretching, then you know that you better start thinking about replacing them fairly quickly because they go from stretching to broken rather quickly.
And for some reason, they don't break during the day.
They only break at night. Yeah, exactly. Then there is another question, also on the maintenance side, from the chat. How often would you suggest to clean the camera? Daily, weekly, monthly?
Okay, we're talking about the 3D camera on top, I'm assuming. So what I would suggest there is like daily, depending a little bit on the barn environment, to be honest. Weekly for sure. Daily, yeah, preferred.
Okay, and then this one is not in the chat. You spent quite a bit of time on cup offsets. How often would you do? How often and when would you do cup offsets? Is there certain situations when you want to do cup offsets?
Yes. So how often? I would say cup offsets you do once a week after any repair or, like I said, loose laser cover, anything like that. I would do the offsets. Maybe even with a liner change, you could combine it with that. Maybe if you have the robot out of operation, but once a week.
Okay, so you would say that any time that you have the laser cover off for any reason, you'd want to
yes.
redo it?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. And then there is one more question that came in. This is an easy one. How do you get reports in a graph, like report 35?
Well, given it's so easy, I think you should answer it.
So it's not that easy. So reach out to your FMS. Like, I mean, depends on, we cannot just convert any report into a graph. The graphing section is separate. And it actually, I think it's not the easiest to operate. I think even FMS people would fully admit that. So if there are certain things you want in a graph, we can try to play with it and see if we can get it there. But it's definitely challenging. Like I think that's pretty fair. Any FMS person wants to disagree on that?
Me.
Okay, thanks for that question. And yeah, there was one more question, but it's just the letter H, so I'm not sure what that question is. So
Is
there's
that
no.
high, Rich, or what are you trying to say?
Here's a few more. There's a question here. Do chains kink over time?
I wouldn't, well, kink, what can happen with the chain is they stretch a little bit. So, and then the link goes sideways in there. So it can hook when it's trying to take off again. When that starts happening, I would look into replacing it because they do stretch over time.
Right. And one more question. I guess it's more of a general question. Melissa, you might want to weigh in on that one too. It's more about what people are doing. Are people using or trying the dry cow report? Do we have a lot of farmers that are using it? So I'm assuming it's the analysis, the dry cow analysis report. Do we have a lot of farms that are using it? Jan Willem first.
I can. How many people are using it? I think it's one of those hidden gems in the system, actually, that not a lot of people are aware that it is there. So the nice part about that is it's a great analysis on how your current dry cow protocol is working out for you. But yeah, are a lot of people using it? I would say no, it's an underused tool that is there.
I would agree with Jan Willem on that. The dry cow analysis is an underused tool. Some people don't know it's there. Some people do use it once I've showcased it to them. I would encourage all of our farmers to make sure they are recording their dry off treatments. And for those who are not actually using a treatment per se, record the dry off event, no treatment, so that we can see if those protocols are effective. How that analysis tool works is that it is looking at somatic cell count at the time of dry off and the time of calving in. So whether or not we know which protocols are being seen as successful.
Yeah, I would second what Melissa's saying too. So even if you don't do treatment, enter it as a no treatment. So you can compare the ones you are treating and not treating and seeing what's working on your farm. One more question just rolled in. Is there a report to view your breedings based on which sire was used and also a report for the conception rate per individual person? Currently, there is not, but it is definitely in the works. So, I mean, it's always going to be in a future update, but there's actually some realness to it. It is actually in the works. It is being validated in different areas at different farms by Lely, but not readily accessible yet. One more question. How many washes should a guy do in 24 hours? Jan Willem, you first.
Okay, you want me to feed Curtis a little bit of Lely Kool-Aid? But it's 3 washes a day. For the reason is, you can get away with 2 washes for a little bit, but then what happens is you get a biofilm or a buildup over your takeoff sensors. So we had a case where they switched to 2 washes a day and they thought they outsmarted the system. It was good for a little bit, but then what happened is the box time started creeping up and the takeoff sensors were unable to see a proper milk flow. So we switched him back to 3 times a day. We shocked the system out and he was good again. So it is not a good idea to do 2 washes a day. It does affect the takeoff performance.
Right. So I mean, it was Melissa, anything to add to that?
I will say that's the FMS perspective. I would encourage anybody questioning the number of washes to also speak to your service team members as to the importance of alternating between the acid and alkaline washes.
Yeah.
They will give a great explanation as to why we need to maintain 3 washes a day.
Yeah. And I mean, the one thing I would add to that, reinforce Jan Willem's point on that, we maybe, as farmers, we measure our success with washes quite often strictly on our IBC number, but what it's doing internally to covering sensors with slime that are not working properly and are affecting takeoffs and stuff like that is something we may not notice. So there's definitely encouragement to do for 3 washes per day. Then what number, one more question in the chat. What number is that dry cow report? Melissa or Jan Willem, either one?
It's not a number. It's if you go under your on the top there and you go to analysis, and then the drop down under analysis, it will be dry cow analysis, I believe it is called. And then it opens up that report.
It's one of the square icons along the top under analysis.
Okay, if you're having trouble, just talk to your FMS person and we'll help you find it. Follow up, another question. Will ProAction data be automatically uploaded, reported in the future? The answer to that is yes, but no idea as to when. A year or 2 ago, it was on the front burner with Lately, it seems to be more on the back burner. I think all your FMS people are trying very hard to get it back on the front burner. Yeah, it's hard to move Lately on that particular file. So yes, it's coming. Don't hold your breath because I think you're going to turn purple before you get it. One more question/comment. If you are using 2 milk lines, can you get away with 2 washes per milk line? And the answer to that is you're more likely to get away with it because your sensors and the stuff in the arm and the robot itself is still getting washed 4 times a day. So you will potentially still have challenges downstream in your filter housings, et cetera, but you're more likely to get away with it than just if you're just doing 2 washes on a regular system. Another question, what about inline pregnancy testing? The answer to that one is there's 0 indication that we know of that there's anything in the works in that regard. Then we have another question in the chat. What other topics will you talk about, and what is what the customers want to hear about? Today we are not doing any more topics. Our next topic in March that we're going to talk about is leaking cows and how to identify them, how to deal with them, what causes them, and a whole discussion around that is what we're hoping to do in March. It's March 26th, and it is already been advertised, and it will be advertised closer to that date. All right, we're heading up on the hour here now. We got 2 minutes
I would
left.
just add to that, Anton, if anyone has any suggestions for future webinars, please submit them to your FMS advisors. We are trying to host a couple of these every year.
Yeah, 100%. Like if you have ideas of certain topics, and especially if we get 4 or 5 people that want to hear the same thing, that gives us good ideas. NV Neil, there's a comment in the chat with only 2 washes per 24 hours. The twin filters are only getting 1 chemical, either acid or alkaline, and that is also, I think, the point that the service technicians would make to you, that one filter set gets washed with soap and 1 gets washed with acid if they're set to 1-to-1. Another question or comment is, what is a good number for robot box time? Jan Willem, take it away.
What is a good number on that? The shorter the better. We want to harvest a lot of milk in as little amount of time as possible. What's a good number? I would say 6 minutes. There's a lot of factors that actually are involved with this, because it really depends on your milk access, how many liters are we harvesting per visit type of deal. So yeah, I like to look more at daily robot output instead of box time per visit.
You also have to factor in milk speed on the herd level.
Yeah.
There is
Yeah.
some genetic component to that as well.
Yes.
Yeah, and I would agree with Jan Willem. Like the number in itself is not a absolute, but I would say in general, if you're less than 7 minutes, is kind of a thing. If you're more than 7 minutes, is probably opportunity. There seems to be a break somewhere on that 7 minutes thing. If you're way more than 7 minutes, there's probably opportunity, but it may be on the breeding side where you have a very slow milking herd potentially. So some of these you cannot change instantly. They may take time. Okay, a couple more questions, and then I'm not taking any more questions. We got 2 questions here yet. We'll try to answer those. When you cull cows and you want to milk them in a week again to get the udder down, is there a way to do that so that it would not affect daily numbers on horizon? I think there is. It's called a 3-legged stool and a pail, and off you go. It's probably not the answer that you're looking for. But as soon as we get them back on horizon, it's going to affect the daily numbers, as far as I understand. I don't see a way around it. Do either of you, Jan Willem or Melissa or Kirsten, if you know a way around it? I don't.
I think
going to affect the daily numbers.
I would ask for a bit further clarification on that question, because if we just want to distinguish them from the main herd, then we could put them in a separate group, which would be easier to manage the numbers.
Yeah, but it would still affect the overall dashboard, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have to click down past the dashboard and look at the group level settings.
I think there's a very one-off question, like a
I think
situations.
the question is, what goal are you trying to achieve with that? So I can tell from the name it's not one of my customers, so it's gonna fall to one of you guys.
Yeah, that's all
to
good.
follow up on that.
Okay. All right. Great. So I would like to wrap it up then for today. I would like to thank Jan Willem and Melissa and Kirsten for the work in developing and presenting this webinar. And I would like to thank all the farmers online for taking the time out of the busy schedule to join us today. Feel free to give us feedback as to if it was useful or not. We can take criticism fairly well. And also, like Melissa mentioned, if there's any future topics, hey, you guys should be talking about this, that, or the other thing, please also let us know that, because we're always looking for topics, because we want to present stuff on what farmers want to hear about. So that's our goal. All right. And if nothing else, we'll call it a day. Thank you for joining us today.